What is going on, guys? This is your boy XCube420. Welcome back to another episode of Showtime with the Cube. I'm with my co-host Cory Hughes. Cory, how you doing?
I'm good. Good.
I'm
pretty sure.
I'm pretty positive. I hadn't got checked today. You know what I'm saying? I hadn't went to a doctor, so I know I'm good today. Yeah, so what we're going to be doing today, guys, The Rings of Power, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, the prequel to the original trilogy that was made. How many years ago was that made? My God, it's early 2000s, right?
Yeah. Oh, I'm trying to think if it was like pre-2000. I don't think it was.
Yeah, Fellowship of the Ring. Fellowship of the Ring was all the way back in 2001. 2001, guys. God, wow. Like 21 years ago. It doesn't feel like that, but some of the people watching this, they might not have even been born then. So they might not know anything about the movie. If you were born in the late 90s, you'd be like, what's Lord of the Rings? Nobody may not know.
Yeah,
so that's been a big gap in between there. So we're going to be talking about episode 1 today, guys. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Now, it is bringing back a main one of the characters that were in the original trilogy in her younger form. And we're going to butcher this name because that's what we do best, all right? Because the Tolkien, I mean, he created his own language. These names are freaky, the elven names and all that, but Galadriel, I think that's how you say it, or
correct.
Galadriel. I mean, I got a country accent, so it's pretty bad. Me trying to say it with any type of enthusiasm. Oh, and I just want to let everybody know, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, okay? Subscribe to the channel. And also, if you want to catch this in podcast format, you can search for Showtime with the Cube. Is it on all major podcast platforms?
It is on all major podcast platforms, including Amazon. So, yeah, it is everywhere. And a big special thank you to Chris Matthew, who's been promoting the hell out of the show on his Forbidden Knowledge News channel. And so if you are coming over here from the episode that Chris pushed out on his podcast channel promoting us, welcome. And please subscribe to the audio podcast on whatever app you're using, Spotify, whatever, because we really appreciate it.
Yeah, most definitely. Hey, that's how this thing continues to go on. Your support through listening. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna play the teaser trailer. This is actually from July 14th. So we just want to give everybody a baseline of what they'll be looking at. And then we'll be back and we'll jump into the episode. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to let that trailer roll out right now.
There was a time when the world was so young. There had not yet been a sunrise. But even then, there was light.
Elves have forests to protect. Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other. We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel. Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
You have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
guys. So that was the trailer, and a lot of those images were actually from the first episode. Actually, like the majority of them.
Yes. Well, they don't want to give too much away from future episodes, so it's kind of understandable. So I don't even know where to begin.
We'll start with I guess the first thing. Let's just go with the first.
All right, let's just start at the beginning.
With baby Galadriel, and as I said before, we are going to continuously butcher that name, okay? Because I don't know other way to do it. But she is, and I guess this is supposed to give you some baseline with the love for her brother. I believe that's what it's supposed to be, looking up to him as almost a father figure type. But of course, she makes her, and this is a moment of bullying in there, but she makes her boat, which turns into a crane, and then the kids proceed to trash the boat in the water. Now, for me, it didn't have a good start as far as the flow to the episode. What do you think about the beginning of this? Like, it didn't seem to really capture me to start the episode off.
You know, you just nailed the whole show in a sentence. It didn't capture me. Like, I'm sitting there watching it, and I actually had to go back and like start certain parts again because it like was in one ear and out the other. There was nothing about it that made it stick. And throughout the first two episodes, I watched the second episode also, and both of them I had to at times go back like 5 minutes because I missed something and I didn't know what I missed, and I was sitting there watching it the whole time. Mm-hmm. So it didn't grab me. And so let's just address the elephant in the room. All the criticism about it is that it's woke, right? And so there's a difference between this kind of woke and like She-Hulk woke. She-Hulk has a message they're drilling into your head.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Men are evil, men are stupid, and women are most likely to get killed or something like that, which is statistically false. Yeah. So, but in this one, it was almost like the normalization of woke. It wasn't overly in your face, but it was like seemingly normal that half the river folk and half the elves were people of color. Not that I really give a damn if they're people of color, but they just, it didn't come off as it was overly in my face other than it was. And so I kind of felt like it was the normalization of wokeness, not necessarily trying to drive it down your throat. Of course, we have the strong female character who the actress they picked for Galadriel, I believe, is atrocious. She comes off as weak. And I hate to be superficial about this.
Yeah, she does.
But when someone's got a strong face, like just think of like Gina Carano in The Mandalorian. That's a strong female character. And it's chiseled into her face, right? That's not the case with this leading woman. She came off as very soft-spoken, very overall weak. And she kind of tried to, the one thing about this character is they try to portray her as somebody who is not part of the inner circle, kind of a rebel, you know, kind of inclined to fanciful whims, right? And so basically you have very little scant evidence that Sauron, who was the Eye of Sauron from Lord of the Rings, that Sauron has returned, but they don't give any backstory really to how Sauron fell the first time. And so if we are going to be detectives here, and so if this is a prequel to Lord of the Rings, in which Sauron was defeated, and he's ultimately going to be defeated in this show, and he was defeated one time before, you don't really have much of a strong antagonist, do you?
Yeah, I know. I'm right there with you on that. I mean, so after the show moves past this opening scene, young Galadriel, her brother having the initial talk with her, which, once again, it wasn't something that, moved me, emotionally. So, I mean, I was just like, okay, he talked to her. And then from there, we jump right into the Elven War with the orcs. Now, the original antagonist during this time, Morgoth.
Morgoth, I believe.
Yeah, Morgoth. Okay. Yeah, so original antagonist, and it looks like it started with him blotting out their son, which is a tree. All right. I mean, it started out like that. And then you see, I believe her brother's name's Finrod. Finrod. Yeah, Finrod.
You're talking about the elven brother, right?
Yeah, the elven brother. So
who's going to be like one of the stronger characters.
Except he's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah, Galadriel. That's Galadriel's brother. Yeah, so
okay.
So during the war, which we didn't really see any of Morgoth, and I don't know, man. I feel like maybe I needed to see more of that. You know what I'm saying?
Like more explanation of the backstory. I think they assume that we know this stuff because everyone was fans of the trilogy. Everyone was fans of The Hobbit. So they must understand from the scant references in those films to the history what exactly is going on. And they didn't explain nothing. So in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, they do a couple flashback scenes where they show Sauron getting the finger cut off with the ring on it. You know, they show part of the war. They show the various kings who got rings of power and how it turned them into those wraiths, the ring wraiths. Mm-hmm. And I feel like in those, 2 or 3 minutes combined of flashback scenes, we got way more of an understanding of the history as it pertained to Lord of the Rings than we got from the past history of this Rings of Power.
Mm-hmm. Right,
they just
right.
brushed right over it. And for the I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollar budget they had, I don't know why they couldn't have fit in an extra 5 minutes worth of scenes, or at least started the show off with 5 or 10 minutes showing the entire backstory, so we know where we're starting here on episode 1, which we just didn't get. So of my criticisms, comparing it to the overall criticism that the community is kind of putting forth, I think just the lack of good writing is a more overpowering feature than any attempted wokeness it tried to push.
Yeah. I didn't so much feel the attempted wokeness. I mean, I understand what they're doing. They're going with the female character as the lead. I suppose. Now, I'm saying this that I suppose because the pacing of this hour of episode is just all over the place. I mean, I can't stay connected. So we start off with Galadriel. But then we move over to the Harfoots. They out there eating berries, and it's like, oh man, there's a wolf out here. And you're like, okay, something's about to happen. Nothing ever happens. Then we move to another elf who wants to bang this human. I'm just like, where are we going? Then all of a sudden, Galadriel's just out there leading folks in the snow. Yeah, we going to get them. We're going to get them. I'm like, well, can I see some backstory of how y'all think y'all might have killed them to start off with? And why these other elves think that this is something that we don't need to pursue. I'm saying, can I see some type of death blow? So that's exactly what you're saying. We don't see anything, them defeating Morgoth, them cornering Sauron, them believing that they've killed Sauron. Now we see that Finrod, the brother, he dies at the hands of Sauron, and he has the sigil upon him, the mark of Sauron upon him. Can I see some of that? No, we just the last time I see Finrod, he's like surrounded by orcs, so I'm thinking that's how he dies. But then it's like, no, he died by the hand of Sauron, and it's just like, okay, but can I see some of that? Y'all are trying to dive so quickly into the present day. Show me some of this backstory to get me more intrigued with these characters. But the characters they were very thin in this first episode.
Yeah, and something I noticed, and I don't know if they specifically picked people with unique facial features because they thought they might have looked like elves.
Yeah, chiseled.
More.
Yeah, chiseled.
Right.
Chiseled.
But I thought they picked some ugly motherfuckers, dude. Really? Like,
yeah, they're supposed to be pretty. Yeah, the elves supposed to be pretty.
On a scale of 1 to 10, these people were like 5s, and I'm like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, the selection of actors is like number one. I'd say more than the writing in any given film. You got to have people who can portray a strong, whatever it is the role is. They have to be able to sell that. And the vibe that I got off of this, and these are like a whole new wave of actors, including like the little girl who's like the Harwood. Like, this is another thing. Let me pause right here. I spent the first episode confused as hell over whether those were hobbits or not. Okay?
Yeah, well, they call them Harfoots. They say
Harfoots, right.
They're Harfoots, but they look like hobbits to me because they got
look like hobbits who didn't take a shower.
Yeah, them stank feet. Them big
right,
stank
right.
feet, man. They don't wear no shoes.
When you read the original trilogy, and I read it, 20 years ago. When you read that, the hobbits will refer to the river people or the river folk. And they were supposedly related to hobbits. They were similar to hobbits, but they weren't hobbits, and they had been estranged from hobbits over the millennia. I'm assuming that these Harfoots are these river folk that the hobbits spoke of in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It would kind of make sense. They appear like distant cousins, except they all had dirt on their faces and raggedy hair. So I'm like, what are they trying to put off here? Because they live in the woods, they can't take a shower. I mean, or bathe in the river or whatever, right? You know what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, there was just an overall lack of proper explanation on things that will be very important.
Yeah, because here's what's key, okay, and especially when you're trying to get a new audience in, okay, an audience that because you got to think you're probably gonna have a whole lot of younger adults watching this, and I say between the ages of probably 18 to 40. That's probably what the main audience is. So you got to think some of the people, if you're below the age of 30, you might not have seen the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings. You might not have no idea what's going on. And so this initial introduction, you're just like, okay, I mean, give me some substance here. You know what I'm saying? I need a little substance. I need something that I can latch on to. Like you never really showed me how big and bad Morgoth was. You never showed me, oh man, Sauron out here wiping out elves upon elves. I mean, I wanted to see something like that. Even the battle with the orcs was thin at best. Because I mean, you just seen the brother kill a couple of orcs, and then you seen them get surrounded. Then you see them stack the helmets in a pile. It's just like, man, it's like you got to give, especially new viewers, and that's the thing that I don't think a whole lot of times they understand is that you need to capture people who, first off, never read the books, okay? Because we talk, when were the books written? Hot damn. 50 years ago? 40 years ago? I mean, a long time ago. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So the books were written eons ago, and also the younger audience that may not have even seen a Lord of the Rings movie. They might have the things they might have watched was maybe The Hobbit, because that was a little bit later on. So they might have caught that. So that's one of the things that I thought fell really thin. I always want that sense of danger. You know what I'm saying? And you never made and you want that right out the gate. If you're introducing a big name character like Morgoth's supposed to be the big bad. We defeat him. Sauron's now the big bad, the top sorcerer. So give me that sense of danger. Show some of the things that happen after you defeat Morgoth that makes you think, okay, Sauron's just as bad as Morgoth was.
Yes. If what you just said is perfect, because if the show would have started out with, say, an elf with his bow and arrow running through the woods, and a bunch of orcs were chasing him, and it was a couple close calls, and then he fights back and he defeats the orcs, and then returns to the village with some orc heads. And even if the whole scene lasted 60 seconds, it would have captured your adrenaline, right? It would have captured that sense of, ooh, what's this about?
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do that, right? So it's like a ballad that just starts off all soft and nice, and then doesn't build, if ever, till like the song's almost over, right? So that's kind of what I got from it. There was nothing, I didn't find any scene in this thing exciting, enthralling. None of it captured me. And I hate to feel biased by the reviews of that people have been putting out for months based on just the information about the show that Amazon had put out in trailers and stuff like that.
Right.
So like everyone's been dumping on this thing for like 3 months already before it even came out. And so my expectations, like, honestly, just they weren't there to begin with. And I'm hoping that my feelings about all the information I heard leading up to it aren't going to affect my actually watching the show. And just to touch real quick, I know we're not doing episode 2 today, but in episode 2, I found that it flowed better than episode 1, and it did have some things that provided some sentiment and some plugged in some gaps that they didn't do in the first episode. So it gives me hope that as the show progresses, it will moderately maintain my attention, if not capture it.
Right, which I'll let people know. Next week we'll be doing episodes 2 and 3 combination to catch up, and then we'll plan on being on schedule from there. But yeah, I'm right there with you. So we have the initial scene, okay, and then we move from there. Galadriel, she's leading a set of elves, I guess, to find Sauron's temple. That's what it looks like they're trying to do. Looks like they've been on a journey for a long time. She was supposed to turn back a long time ago. Right. Woman not listening to orders. Hey, easy now. We're not misogynists out here, all right? We're not the M word, okay? But, I mean, she was directly against orders, putting her crew's life at risk. And they find the temple, okay? I'm expecting to see maybe orcs at the temple. That's what I was expecting to see. I was expecting something really to happen, and nothing really happens. There is a battle, but it's it's not exciting. Yeah.
One thing they dropped that didn't follow up on was as they're in that temple or whatever it was, that abandoned facility that they were at, there was something watching them, or at least that's the impression that I got, because it showed an armor-clad hand looking around the corner at them, and then that was it. It never followed up with that. So who was it? Whose hand was that? Who was looking in on them? And if that was just an editing error, then that's pathetic.
Yeah, because what they end up, they find the sigil of Sauron, of course, and then they fight a troll, which the men get wiped down, and of course Galadriel, she's battle tested. Okay?
Right. And again, so she has ESP. There's something about these TV shows lately that they all got ESP, right? So she knows to pour the water on top of the altar, and then from that, the symbol of Sauron popped up, which I didn't understand, like, why. And so then, yeah, like, why? And she happens to know that Sauron was leaving direction to another temple that they had left that one and gone to. She just knows that because of a symbol that popped up out of the water.
Yeah.
Like,
so it's just like, it's like, give me something. And she might have said something during that time, but I ain't gonna lie to you. Like you're just you're so confused about what they're doing that you almost like tune out what they're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like you're so just like, man, what is happening here so much that you just like, hold on, they just said about 2 minutes worth of dialogue, and I don't even know what they said, because you're trying to wrap your head around what's actually happening here.
Right, and they always have to speak in this, like, I don't even know how, ephemeral kind of philosophic. Every sentence has to have a lesson in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it dilutes it, because you just like, because now you got to try to decipher what they're saying. You know what I'm saying, in layman's terms.
Right.
So you're like, okay, all right. So, oh damn, you like the episode's still going. So you just like, why are you trying to decipher what they're saying? Episode's continuing to move on. So of course, she slays the troll. All right, and it slays in an epic fashion. The troll, it knocks a glacier into the other people. I thought that might have killed him, but I guess it didn't. From what I'm seeing, I guess it didn't.
Right.
And Galadriel saves the day. Like I said, battle tested, battle approved, and she did her thing while the men elves just, look kind of weak. Of course, you got to have a strong female character. The men elves could have did something, all right, besides get their ass whooped. I mean, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So from there, we jump over to the Harfoots, all right? And do you know what's happening there? I mean, it's just, they just seem to just be in the episode.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's
so you got these two people walking around with moose antlers on their backs, and then the Harfoots hiding out there in the bushes, hiding their I was like, what does this mean?
Correct.
Do people with the moose antlers, are they hunting them? Because the moose antlers was in that book. So I was like, is this a danger? Because those two guys didn't look dangerous at all.
Yeah, like I couldn't tell if they were using those as like a camouflage, or if like with writing this bad, they could have jumped off a cliff and used them as like a fucking flown through the air. Like I didn't know what was going on with that. And I bet their response to that first episode will be, well, we were trying to develop some storyline and some background to the characters, but they didn't. They just didn't, right? And I don't think I could give any less of a fuck about that little girl Harfoot. I'm going to want to call them. I'm going to call them something like Hobbit Juniors, because I'm never going to remember Harfoot every time, and it sounds stupid. So I could give two shits about this little girl. I just don't care. I just don't care. And so she does some things in the second episode, and that's why they're trying to set her up in the first episode with a little story and a little background information. But they do a horrible job at really telling us who she is. Is she a rebel amongst the group, right? Is she the Harfoot that wants to be out of the woods? I mean, she kind of hints at what's beyond. She talks about what's beyond the river, what's over the hills, and then the other Harfoot with the natty hair says to her, oh, well, here we have each other and we're safe, and this is how we survive. And so, so the only thing that really comes out of that is that she has an exploratory spirit. Right. And they spent way too much time letting us know that.
It's, what it's almost like? It's almost like we have some, so we had hobbits as a main part of the Lord of the Rings original. We had the Hobbit movies, and so we need to put something Hobbit-like in this. That's what it seems like to me. It just seems like, well, we need to put that in there, okay? And once again, I haven't read the books. We all know it's not spot on from the books, okay?
Even the original trilogies,
spot on. Yeah.
Even the trilogies were not like spot on to the books at all. Especially The Hobbit. The Hobbit was a short 250-page book that they made into like 8 hours worth of fucking movies. That was totally unnecessary, and half the stuff in the movies wasn't in the book. So you can tell when they're doing a money grab. And the only thing that makes me really smile about this show is knowing that Amazon spent millions upon millions upon millions on this thing, and they're never going to make it back.
Yeah. So. Never. Now the Harfoot, her name is Nori for everybody. Nori. And it just goes to there. They go and they start eating some berries, and then she sees a footprint in the mud, and tells her, "Oh, we need to get out of here." And it's like, "Hey, there's a wolf," and then you see the wolf come right up close on the screen. You see it up on top of the cliff, and then you see it right in front of the screen. I'm like, oh, okay, something's gonna happen with this wolf right here in a few, and then it moves somewhere else. I was just like, well, I mean, was that it? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It just kind of left me like, this is where we're leaving it. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was going to get some payoff with this wolf, like they were going to have to fight it off or something like that. Obviously, the wolf knows that they're there. The wolf sees them. They called it a wolf, and so I'm like, why didn't the wolf attack? I mean, that's what I want to know. I wanted some type of. I think the thing is that I think I was looking for a little bit more action. I think that's what the issue is.
Well, that is definitely accurate. There should have been more action, but if for there being a lack of action, there was also a very distinct lack of substance. Like, they didn't give us anything. They didn't give us backstory. They didn't give us character development. They gave us nothing except character introductions but they didn't give us enough to give a shit about any of these characters.
Right.
That's the most disappointing thing. Like, where are they finding these writers?
Yeah, so don't get me lying, okay? I mean, I don't know, but I don't know. It's pretty tough, man. I mean, it's tough around the board because once again, whenever you're starting a series out, you want something to catch somebody immediately. When you're reading a book, you want something to catch your attention immediately. Because if you're reading a 1,000-page book, if you're not interested within the first 3-4 pages, you're probably not going to finish it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Of course, we're doing this for the channel. You know what I'm saying? But most people would just be like, you know what? I'm just going to stop watching it. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what's going on, and I'm not really interested because you haven't gave me anything to be interested in.
Yes. Yeah, that's like the one thing that I can take away from this is that I took away nothing. It was really in one year out the other. It was very disappointing. And I'm going to say it again. Like, I did my best to suspend my disbelief and to overlook all the woke shit, which I didn't think the woke stuff was nearly as prevalent as it was in something like She-Hulk.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
right. Mm-hmm.
But even with that all aside, like, I just didn't care about the characters. Then you have the what's the name of the black elf? I forget his name. Did they introduce him in the first episode?
Yes, because he was which we're gonna get to him. Arondir.
Okay, so
which we might not be saying that right.
Right. So he kind of reminded me a little bit of like the Mandalorian, how the Mandalorian's attitude when he goes places is like, he's the man and he'll kick your ass and just tell him what he wants to know and he'll move on. And this develops a little more in the second episode, but that's what I get from him. He walks around with a kind of holier than thou attitude because everyone he's dealing with outside the elf world is a bunch of lowly humans, or these hobbit people. But the sense of holier than thou-ness was emanating from him. But I guess you can say that about all the elves.
Yeah. Of course, that's their whole perception of everybody else who is around Middle Earth, because they're technically separated from Middle Earth, but they go to Middle Earth to fight the battle. They have that particular approach. So after we get past the Harfoots, it goes back to the elves, Galadriel. She's talking to her friend Elrond, and he's going through the whole spat with her, like, hey, you're lucky that they're not disbanding you, that they're not kicking you out because you disobeyed orders. And then they end up having a ceremony for all the elves, and they say that you're going to the Holy Land, pretty much. It's almost like you're going to heaven as an elf. You know what I'm saying? and so it goes to that moment, and she's very distraught. She doesn't really want to go, but her friend talks her into it. Now, I guess this was. I guess they've been friends for a while. That's what we're seeing here.
Her and Elrond.
Her and Elrond.
Elrond is the character from the trilogy, played by Agent Smith, right? So I forget his name, but yeah, that's him as the younger elf. And I looked up a time frame of when this happened, and there is no specific dates on when this series occurs, other than multiple thousands of years prior to the next the trilogy, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, Jesus Christ, to live in the elf world for thousands of years with not a whole lot to do, what a bunch of torture. Shit. I don't know how people look at immortality like it's a good thing. Jesus Christ. I'm checking my watch. I got like 25 years to go, and I'm like, Jesus. That's a long time.
You'd be bored. You're just like, man, I'm just kind of bored with this. I ain't gonna lie to you. But I guess if you prove yourself enough, then you're able to go to the Holy Land. All right.
I'm assuming that what they're talking about with the Holy Land is the place where like Bilbo Baggins ends up sailing off into at the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the vibe that I get. And Frodo ends up going there also when he leaves at the end of Lord of the Rings. So I'm assuming that is where they're talking about. That's a place that we never get to see, and from what I know, it's not written about either. So it's supposed to be left a mystery.
So they get the return to Valinor, okay, which is the actual place that you see when you start off with. That's where it's got the tree. That's actually the sun,
right? Gotcha,
Valinor. Gotcha. Yeah. So you get the return there. Like I said, I don't know the whole backstory of having to leave and then coming back, but they almost make it seem like it's this grand event returning there. Ceremonial robes. That you laying down your arms. Now you're going to a land of peace, per se. Yeah. Right. So, yeah. It's once again. There was a lot of dialogue that happened during that time, and I felt like it didn't really move the plot along. It's just people just talking to each other. You know what I'm saying? It's just Elrond just talking to her, and you're just like, it's your brother would have. Do you want more? Because they're standing in the woods, and I guess whenever one of the elves fall, I guess if you're high enough status, they'll carve you into a tree. They said, "Do you want more of your brothers here amongst the trees?" They said, and your original brother Galadriel would want you to go back to Valinor. Take this opportunity to leave. Your work is over. Of course, we all know the work's not over because. It's the Rings of Power.
Right, and that's another thing about prequels. Is how they fucking end. Okay? So they have to try to give you some kind of twist and turn in the middle somewhere, which ultimately ends up being irrelevant and not having an impact on the outcome because we already know what the outcome is. The outcome is Sauron gets his ass kicked, hence the reason he comes back in the trilogy 2,000 years later, right? Yeah. So it's extremely anticlimactic. Like prequels. Here's the thing about prequels. None of them have ever been done right, I don't think, in the history of movies or television. And the only prequels that I've ever absolutely loved, possibly more than the original themselves, were books. And they were the books from the Dune series.
Okay.
Have you seen the new Dune movie?
Yes, I thought it was very good.
20 years ago, I read all the Dune books, and I thought they were just phenomenal. Frank Herbert died, and his son, I believe his name was Brian Herbert, he started doing the prequel books. And oh my God, the prequel books were phenomenal, possibly better than the original books of the Dune series. But of course, that's the only exception that I have, because Herbert did a good job of sprinkling in little nuggets of the past that intrigued you, that you wanted to know about, but that are never talked about. And so then when those prequel books were written, there was a whole slew of things for the son to write about that capitalized on those little nuggets that his father left behind. I'm not seeing anything like that here. This is obviously a cash grab.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what this is all the way.
And so the ultimate problem is I just don't think anyone really gives a shit about Lord of the Rings anymore, right? Like, if we weren't doing this show, I would not be watching this. I would not be watching this series at all. Not because of any particular reason, but just because the idea of anything Lord of the Rings to me is like beating a dead horse at this point. Years after the films came out, they had continued to put out some video games, and those video games were really good. Hell, Lord of the Rings Online is still active with a decent player base to this day. Okay. But that's a very unique and niche audience, right? And they and gamers, like, they're into gaming and they like their storytelling in games. So this, as far as a prequel goes, it didn't do anything to overcome the negatives that it had against it just by being a prequel, right? Which it needed to. It needs to overcome the fact that we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I thought a prequel that was done well, I don't know if you ever watched it, but was Spartacus. Because it introduced a character that would end up showing up in the later seasons, Gannicus. I thought they did that one really well.
I don't
and
know that I ever saw. I mean, I saw Spartacus the first couple seasons, and I just remember it had a lot of tits. And so,
Yeah.
other than that, I don't remember watching the prequel. I remember once that actor died, the show went downhill. So I really can't comment on it.
Because they did a because once he died, they did a prequel with Gannicus, which was with the same house, but Batiatus was not the ruler of the house yet, not supreme ruler anyway. So they actually did really good with that because it introduced a character that wasn't in the original first season, and then they reintroduced that character later on because he ends up becoming a free man. Oh, spoiler alert! If somebody's gonna watch that, too late. Hey, look, that's okay. So from there, they have their talk, they have the ceremony. We move over now to the supposed upcoming romance. Andor, golly, Arondir, and Browen. Am I saying these names right? Probably not, but Bronwyn.
Bronwyn.
Right. Yeah, there we go. So Andor, he does the typical badass thing, which is in almost every film, almost every movie. An ominous figure walks into a bar and somebody talks shit and almost gets their ass whooped. I mean, that's what I mean. So that it came right off. It almost looked like the scene from The Mandalorian, like the first scene. It was like almost a spitting image, and so. He's been in this area, you find out later on, for 79 years. He said he's been stationed here for 79 years. Now, I'm not sure how old this young lady is, but we see she's a single mom, okay? So we got to make sure we have that in there, single mom.
A single mom elf.
Yeah. Well, no, she's not an elf. She's a human.
Oh, okay. I know who you're talking about. Okay.
The
chick at the farm.
Yeah, at the farm. Yeah, the chick at the farm. Yeah, so there's been some type of budding connection between them. I don't think it's moved to the point of being romantic or physical touch, but there's almost like a flirty nature to them. And then when somebody else walks up, they're like, oh, we're not talking.
Come on, she likes that dark meat, and it's all over her face, man.
She's dark elf meat.
The dark elf meat. She's waiting for him to lay down that pipe.
Yeah, well, she wants a man with experience. And I mean, if he's been stationed there for 79 years and he looks a little bit old, he looks middle-aged, so he's probably been alive for, about 500-600 years. So he should have some experience.
Yes.
She said, I want a man with experience. That's what I want. So, and once again, this is one of those things where it just moves you over to this, and it just seems like it has nothing to do with what's going on. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, okay, you just took me here, and why do I care? You know what I'm saying? So
the story with her will develop.
Yeah, right.
There are some significant things that happen in the second episode that we'll get to next week that kind of justify it in the first episode, but they don't give you any hints really in the first episode of what's to come. Well, let me backtrack on that. I kind of dozed off for like 30 seconds, and Amazon went straight from the first episode to the second episode. And so I couldn't tell where the first one ended and the second one began. Right. So
I thought I was watching the same thing.
Right. I did. I'm like, God damn, this thing is taking forever. So, but the kid, did they show him out in that little barn area?
Yeah, with Sauron's broken sword. I'm like, right. How the hell did you get that?
Sword. Right. It just happened to turn up. Now, we don't know how long they've been living in this area or owned that barn, but why did it just turn up?
Yeah, and the kid had it hidden, so somebody had it hidden there. Like, it's been there for a while. It wasn't there just yesterday. It's been there for a while. He just goes, picks it up, and it glows, and you're just like... Right,
and the weird thing is, like, Sauron's a big dude. I mean, with all that armor, he's like 8 foot tall. That sword was like a toothpick. I mean, I don't know what... that wasn't his... Maybe that was his, like, dagger drop or something, but his real sword should be, like, 6 foot long or something.
Yeah. It seems like you got a mighty small sword for your size. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe it's like the ring, and the ring grows or shrinks depending on,
There we go. It might be his oh shit knife. You know what I'm saying? That's what I call oh shit knife, last resort.
Well, I'm going to say this about Sauron. You never, ever get to see Sauron except for, like, in his physical form except for like 2 minutes in the original trilogy when he gets the finger cut off. And he's a big towering dude and some badass looking armor. I want to see more of that in flashbacks in this thing here. And
yeah, you see him briefly just walking like down some steps during the first few minutes. Yeah.
Right. But we need some more of that. We need some more of how he became the big head of the orcs and the badasses, and like, how did he become this big bad evil dude? Because, you know, sometimes there's a benefit to something being mysterious, but Sauron, like, no, not anymore. Like he was mysterious in the trilogy. They never really give too much of a backstory other than he's the leader of the baddies. I want to see a little bit more, right? At least like in Harry Potter, they flash back to Tom Riddle before he was Voldemort. And over 8 freaking movies, you got a goddamn good idea about what happened to him as a kid and why he became Voldemort. Like, I want some of that action in the next couple episodes, because I don't care about the antagonist. At this point, I'm hoping Sauron wins and kills all these fucks. Like, seriously.
Yeah, because once again, you need that villain present. So I think that's one of the things that all shows need to kind of get out of the way early on, is an establishment of 2 characters: your main character, your protagonist, and then your villain. Okay, get that establishment, then let everything else trickle in between that. And they need to incorporate that more with the story writing, instead of trying to be so nuanced. You know what I'm saying? They're almost like they're overthinking something that can be a very simple plot. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So
here's another thing we want to avoid. Like, I'm sensing that this is a rehash of the trilogy. Like, Sauron was defeated. Now he's coming back. We think he's coming back, but we're not sure. At some point, we're going to have to convince everybody that he's coming back, right? Like they did in the. Like, I don't want. I swear to God, if they go on a long journey at any point in this damn show, I'm just done. All right? Okay? We don't need them going on a long journey. Right? This doesn't have to be. And so I don't remember if it was in the first or second episode, maybe the end of the first, but there was some visual imagery of the Eye of Sauron. I don't know if you caught that. When you see it, you'll know it. You'll be like,
it might have been in the second one. That might be.
Okay. So when you see it, you'll know it. But it was a clear nod to the Eye of Sauron, even though it wasn't. It was like light shining through the trees or something like that. But when you saw it, you're like, that's the Eye of Sauron. Okay. There is no Eye of Sauron in this. There should not be, because he doesn't use. And if there's an Eye of Sauron in this one, then it's just a rehash of the original trilogy. So he's got to find a way to come back without doing it that method. And once again, why can't they keep this guy dead? I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But he's everlasting. That's all I know.
Okay.
The man's everlasting.
So let me make a connection here. Okay. So I believe that what are these? The Harfoots, which is... Okay, the Hobbit Juniors.
Not the Hobbits, Harfoots.
Harfoots. Yeah. I believe that Smeagol in the original trilogy was one of these river folk. Okay? So that they have to, at some point, give us the backstory to him. You're right, but I don't think he was thousands of years old. He couldn't have been thousands of years old, so he can't be in this. And so there's a missed opportunity here, because everyone loves Smeagol, right? So if they were to get that guy and have some sort of flashes forward or something, or who knows, but that is something that people would be interested in seeing, you know? But none of the characters, like, are any of the elf or dwarf characters or human characters, like, worthy of a TV show on their own? No. You want
probably not.
You want the antagonist. You want the cool characters like Gollum. You know, you want dragons and stuff. And here's another thing I want to comment on. I find the timing of this coming out and the timing of the release of House of Dragons is kind of odd.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
They're both prequels. They're both fantasy related. They both started at the same time. They're, you know, we don't really have TV time slots anymore, right? That's kind of a thing of the past.
Yeah.
So it's not really competition because people will just watch both.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I found it an interesting kind of coincidence that they were both starting about the same time, carrying much of the same themes. And so who knows what's going to happen there. From what I'm hearing, House of Dragons isn't bad. People are saying it's actually well written, and the reviews have not been awful. Unlike the reviews for this, which are like, totally comedic.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the episode ends with Galadriel going with her other elf brethren back to Valinor. And as they disrobe them, remove their arms from them, she has an epiphany. She didn't want to let go of her brother's sword or his dagger. It means so much to her, but she does. And then
these are
as
very
they get
sentimental
closer,
people. Like,
yeah. But I mean, a tear flows from their eye every other second. I'm like, come on, y'all. It's just like, come on now. So as they get closer, they're right there. The clouds open up. It's about to welcome them in. And then she decides to grab the dagger and make maybe the dumbest decision of all time, which is jump off that boat because I don't see no land nowhere. Where's she swimming to? She must be an Olympic swimmer. That's all I noticed. That elves got that type of lung capacity. I mean, she just I don't know how far away this place is or how much water you got to traverse, but she just jumps off the boat. And I'm just like,
yeah.
Did you have a plan after that? You just jump right off the boat with the dagger. It's like, yep, I'm swimming back. I'm like, okay, that's a bold move right there. That's all I know.
Yes, and as you'll see in the second episode, there's some nasty stuff living in that water. So
that's what I figured. I'm like, this looks like the ocean. So I'm like,
like, if me and you are going through the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and we're in the middle of the ocean, I'm not jumping in that water for 10 seconds. No way, no how. A shark or some fucking dinosaur we haven't seen in a million years is going to come up and get my ass. No.
And first off, you freeze to death. You'll freeze to death.
Yes. I think there's nothing more terrifying than being out in the middle of water everywhere without a ride. That is guaranteed death. Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And so we move to the final scene. Arondir. They finally told him and said, hey, we can leave this post. So now's the time he needs to go and profess his love and see if he can make a booty call before he has to leave. Okay. I think that's what the thing is. He said, can I tap before I leave? That's all I'm asking. All right. That's what I've seen it as. And then, of course, in unison, everybody sees the meteor going through the air. The Harfoots, the elves, because Elrond and the High King, they see the meteor. Harfoots, Arondir sees it, and we see a crash, and we see a butt naked gentleman out there. Mm-hmm. And then the episode ends with Nori walking up to said gentleman.
Right.
So that's the first episode. What do you think about the ending of that? I mean, it gives you, I guess, something to look forward to, but you're not sure what you're looking forward to.
Yes. The meteor thing seemed out of place. The fact that it was a person didn't really seem to make much sense. They don't reveal who that is in the next episode, but they give enough hints to where I think you can figure it out pretty quickly.
Right. Okay.
So, yes, what we have is roughly an hour's worth of my life that I can't get back, and I'm very disappointed in it. This, like I said earlier, the second episode is not as drab as this one, but still nothing exciting. One or two little things happen that intrigue you, but if they never put out a third episode, I wouldn't be up at night wondering what happened.
So you're saying if they cancel it right now, you'd be like, oh, well. I mean, you'd be like, it's okay. It's okay to cancel it. It won't hurt our feelings.
I just don't understand. Like, one of my biggest things, like, I don't understand like people who want to be actors new in 2022. I just don't get it whatsoever.
Right.
And this is really a highlight of a whole bunch of new faces that no one's ever seen before, that odds are no one's ever going to care about, right? None of these people are going to be superstar actors in the future who got their start on the Lord of the Rings TV show. So,
yeah, probably not. Now, the rating for this first episode, we're just going off IMDb here. It's actually high as hell, 7.3 out of 10. I'm going to be honest with you, for the first episode, I'm giving it 1 cube. 1 cube out of 10.
You see,
that's what I got.
Despite all the harsh criticisms I've given of it and how it really was kind of boring, I am still going to give it 5 cubes out of 10.
You giving it 5?
I'm going to give it 5.
Okay.
And how do I justify that? I can't really. I can't justify it. But 4 seems a little low. It wasn't so bad that it was like miserable. It was a bunch of nothing, right? It was like having liver for dinner, right? It got the job done, but you ain't excited about it.
Now, do you think that's because that you've seen the second episode, so that may have changed your mind about what happened in the first?
Possibly. That is a possibility. Okay. It might be influencing me. The second episode, I wouldn't rate much higher than that. But, again, we have the same themes. We have the strong woman who needs to convince a bunch of dumb men of something, right? So I'm going to say this, and this isn't really a spoiler. Elrondir, is that his name? I know I said it wrong.
Yeah, the black elf.
The black elf, okay.
Well, so, I don't know if he's really black.
He's African-American elf, right?
yeah, something like
that. Well, there's no
yeah,
Africa or America in fucking Elfland, so... But whatever he is. Here's another. This is my criticism. If I am all for diversity in my television, but if you're going to give me black elves, do not give me black elves with white traits. Okay? He has the fucking.
He's a suburban elf.
He's a suburban elf
black elf
with fucking green eyes. Okay? I'm sorry, I never met a black guy with green eyes before. So
let's see that context in.
Right. I mean, I want that guy straight off the boat from Africa if you're going to be putting him in our entertainment. So I have a clear cut, know who I'm dealing with here. Right. So, yeah, the whole, woke people in general and woke Hollywood, like they're fucking hilarious. They really are. But there's a scene in the second episode where he is, Adrondir is in like a human area in a bar, and he's trying to talk to them about it. You guys seen anything? Basically he's trying to find out if Sauron's coming back and if there's any signs of that. And then one of the humans goes, "Get your ass out of here. We don't care about 1,000-year-old legends," right? And that to me really did perfectly sum up how everyone in general felt, right? Like nobody's out there wondering if Sauron's coming back except for these fucking nosy elves who have no evidence to support the fact that Sauron's coming back. They have some suspicions and they have whispers on the wind, right? And like, it's all that weird stuff that doesn't have any concreteness to it. Yeah. And so that I really appreciated, how everyone's like, shut the fuck up already, right? That's basically what it was. Just shut the fuck up and get the shit out of here. Okay, but then 10 minutes later, they're proving that the orcs are coming back. So we'll discuss that next week. The second episode I felt flowed much better. Maybe that's the way to look at it. The first episode seemed like a middle episode when it wasn't a good introduction. It could have been a much better introduction. It could have had some more punch to it. Hell, if they gave us they could have given us a Samaritan intro with 10 minutes of animated backstory.
There we go.
And boom. Problem solved, and they could have eliminated some of the information dropping throughout the show that was relevant to stuff that happened in the past.
Exactly. That's how I feel about it. So that's going to wrap up our episode 1 review of the Rings of Power. We want to know what y'all think about the Rings of Power so far in the comment section below. As far as the first episode, like I said, we're going to be doing episodes. We're going to do a combination 2 and 3 next week. That way we'll be right on track with being able to jump into to 4 that'll be coming out the following week as well. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, IMDb, the people up there gave it 7.3 out of 10 for the first episode. Very high. I'm wondering if that was coming from people who already are fans of Lord of the Rings, so they felt a real connection with this particular episode right out the gate, with characters in their younger form. So that may be the case. And when you have people who watch these shows who have a real deep knowledge of things in the past, and they get hyped for it. But the one thing that I want to do, or one thing I always do, is I want to be affected by what you put before me, not what I know is in a book or what I've seen in a past movie.
Right.
I want you to put before me good work that intrigues me on what the story you're trying to bring to me at the moment. And so I think if they focus on that, then there could be some redemption, and maybe there'll be some redemption a little bit later on in the series. So yeah, that's episode 1. And yeah, we appreciate everybody for listening. We're going to be doing a She-Hulk episode as well. That'll be coming out in a couple of days for episode 4 of She-Hulk. So be on the lookout for that. As always, like we said, subscribe to the channel. Even if you got to turn on in the background, let that thing play through. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I'm fine with that. You know what I'm saying? Multiple listens. You know what I'm saying? Multiple listens. I'm fine with that. If you catch 20 minutes here, then you got to rewind. But hey, we're fine with that. We appreciate everybody for checking us out. Cory, you got anything else for the people?
No, other than if you're not at home and you can't watch the YouTube, put on your favorite podcast platform and listen to us there. That to me is the best place to check us out when you're on the go. And that's about it.
Yeah. So once again, we appreciate everybody from your boy HQ420, also Cory Hughes, Showtime with the Cube. We're going to take our bow for the day, and we'll catch y'all on the next episode, which will be out soon. So peace out. Appreciate y'all.